Hey everyone, it's iWushok with another video in my information series. Today is Tier 7 familiars. These familiars can be gotten in zones from Morgoroth down, World Boss Tier 7 and down, and the 4th raid. Again, I'm not going to go over every familiar, but more just the ones that you might want to keep an eye on when you're in that tier, and I will only mention ones that can be obtained from within that tier. So for example, Penguita has familiars used in Tier 1, but you can't get them until much later, so they won't even be mentioned until then. If you missed my other videos, check them out, as those familiars would carry you through this tier as well. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in with familiars found in Tier 7. This is where World Boss was introduced, so we have quite a few familiars to talk about there as well. First up is Chet. This is an epic DPS healer that you can get fairly cheap, needing just Chewy Emblem. Built-in 45% crit lets you stack something else like Empower and get some crazy good damage spikes. His big downside is that the spread heal is locked behind the 2 SP. That's not too horrible in the grand scheme of things, but not ideal if you end up needing healing right away. He's kind of like the dollar store version of Wembo. Elorius is a big one. If you've asked in World Chat or looked at early game guides, you will see a lot of mentions of the Eula sandwich, and that's using this familiar. He's a deflect tank with built-in 13.5% deflect. Augments can actually skyrocket this though and make things super consistent, but specifically deflect will let you beat dungeons with far lower stats than intended. For the sandwich approach, you make 7 of these familiars so you can stable to +5 and still have 2. Then you get yourself a staff, put yourself in between them. During battle, you heal them up and rotate their position to keep them alive as long as possible and deflect the enemy to death. It won't be perfect, and you will lose a lot, but you only have to win once. He's a serviceable tank pretty far really, and 1000% worth farming to get max stable. Pro tip, in the familiar pane, search Layer to find him and avoid that special character at the very beginning. There aren't really any familiars you want to camp out in the raid for. Robo Buddy is a decent dual strike familiar, and Mobos is their Empower counterpart, but neither are really worth writing home about, so I'm just going to skip them. Jumping into World Boss, we start with Wacom. This is a great healer with 30% Empower. The problem with Wacom is that they're expensive to make and they get outclassed later. However, at this point in the game, they're top tier. They have high enough health that when you start getting bait fams, you can still use him, but he also has super low speed. That's another problem he faces. Since heal skills don't count as per hit for pets and brains, he has to use a per turn brain because of his heals. But because he has such slow speed, you're not going to get very many procs. Once you get further in, you can use a defensive brain on a multi-hit DPS familiar and get better healing output. Walogdr is all I'm going to try to say for this familiar's name. He's a mythic, and boy is he expensive. You need a bully in here in addition to a few other legendary familiars. Like Wacom, he's a healer, he's got 30% built-in Empower, but he also has 3% Quad Strike. If you proc that, then whomever you're trying to heal becomes full health, full stop. He's worth mentioning simply for being a mythic, but the benefit you get for the cost is just too low in my opinion. All the same drawbacks of Wacom and triple the price. Jumping into Nether, we start with Clavid. 22% in power and a heal target at 1 SP. They're an okay healer, but they get used in other fusions, so don't just sleep on them. A major drawback is their health, which is so low that the moment you have something hit weakest, Clavid will die. There's no way around that. Up next is Omo, and like Clavid, will be used in another fusion. Additionally, he's a decent healer and DPS. Built-in dual strike, higher health than Clavid means that he's going to heal more and survive more hits. I would 100% take them over Clavid even before taking into account that Omo is cheaper to make. Drazig is the first Nether legendary to talk about. He uses Omo and Demon Juice to make, and he's a nuke DPS. Built-in critical and Empower means that Drazig can melt an enemy fairly easily, and his skill set matches with a ton of skills that could spike damage higher than any familiar I've talked about yet. Some people even still use him in later D4s, and it's easy to see why. Perhaps the strongest DPS found up to this tier, and he keeps that title for quite a bit. Ragmar is the legendary DPS that you'll make if you go the Clavid route. He has high built-in crit chance, a few good nuke skills. Unfortunately, with his health, he doesn't scale very well, and his skill set just isn't as good as Drazig. He's worth mentioning though if you went with Clavid instead of Omo. Finally, we have Drahnath. This is the mythic familiar from Netherworld. 60% crit chance, 4% team enrage, and recently buffed to start the battle with 50% fury. He can heal if you get to 2 SP, but realistically you're going to be dishing out damage instead of healing with him. Unfortunately, Drahnath has a power spike in their first turn, then falls off thanks to Fury, as opposed to being able to consistently spike. So I would recommend using Drazig by himself instead of fusing to make Drahnath. Special shout out though, as Drahnath was the first mythic familiar I ever made. Those are the familiars I wanted to mention from tier 7. We finally got to get deeper into world boss familiars since they all took familiars from this tier, since that's the one that world bosses introduced. Is there a familiar you think I skipped over that should have been included? Which are your favorite familiars? Let me know in the comments below, and good luck on your grind for the best familiars. Another place for more information on these, help finding friends for the game, and even get free in-game items like Ultra Gores and XXL packs, check out the Discord linked on my profile. It's the official Bitverse Discord filled to the brim with players hyped about the whole Bit Heroes universe. Weekly movie nights, weekly chances to play games with myself, other members of the community, and the community managers, as well as more knowledge about the game than you can shake a stick at. If you get lucky enough with the giveaways, you can play like a pay-to-win player without spending a dime. I hope to see you there, and thanks for hanging out today. If you want to support me in getting better equipment or making more videos, check out the link in my channel, and don't forget to like this video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, subscribe if you want more, and I will see you in the next video.